So he just wanted to sleep with you to test it.
He specifically told me not to tell his husband.
Oh. All right, boyfriend, what are we drinking today?
Today we are drinking a coffee near and dear to my heart. This is La Maria.
Why is it near and dear to your heart?
This is a coffee that I have roasted in the past, and I'm working at a roastery, kind of developing. While I maybe didn't roast this exact batch, I get to taste it every time, quality control, and
Plus, we made a flash
flash
pour
brew,
over.
like a Japanese cold brew flash
Is that what
brew
they call
coffee.
it? A Japanese cold brew?
I think so.
ASMR.
It smells delicious. So this coffee is a Colombian coffee from the south of Colombia. It is super fruity, really nice texture. It's like nice full blackberry and sweet and just like really nice acidity.
Cheers.
Cheers. That's nice, right?
So today we're talking about all things friendships, straight friends, queer friends, making friends as adults, workplace friends, and how we actually made friends. Because over the last 6 months, I've been living in Vancouver for 3 years now, and I'd say the past 6 months I've made more friends than the past 2.5 years combined.
Yeah, I think for me as well, like I've mostly made friends just through workplaces, but now I'm for the first time in living in Vancouver, which is like 6 years almost. I have friends who don't have jobs in the service industry. And I'm like, this is weird. Like people actually have real lives. They don't work like a 2 p.m. until midnight.
So I guess a good place to start is how we actually got around to making friends. I think we kind of addressed this a little bit, maybe in one of our previous Q&A, but essentially I became friends with one person and then they introduced us to their kind of circle who all grew up in Vancouver.
Yeah, so we pretty much got adopted. Having friends changed my perspective on like wanting to stay in Vancouver for a long period of time because I really didn't. Like I wanted to go out, I wanted to move, I wanted to see bigger cities and do more things. And like having a closer group of friends who want to like explore this city to its depths. I'm like, okay, well that's more interesting because I don't have to like
Do it by yourself.
do it by myself.
So before we got introduced to everyone in this kind of new friend circle, obviously you had your work and your coworkers. How are the friendships with those guys?
While I work somewhere, I find that I build connections with people really easily. Like I can work with somebody, we can be close. And like, I feel like every time I go to a new job, like I learn somebody new to a very good extent. And I really enjoy that. I think the hardest part for me is like when I eventually leave that job or I go somewhere different, maintaining that relationship has just been like a really big struggle. And I feel like I only actually talk to like 2 people that I used to work with.
I feel like it's also difficult to sometimes maybe differentiate between like coworkers and friends. Obviously, like they can be both, but a lot of the times, you know, you have to question like, oh, are we just coworkers? Like, are we going to actually do things outside of work? Do we share similar values? Or are they a nice person and we work together?
Are you friends or friendly?
They're probably just friendly a lot of
Yeah.
the time. You know, when you're working, 12 hours in the kitchen, it's like, okay, you get home at like 1 a.m. sometimes, you sleep until 10 or 9, but you still have to get up for the next, start prepping for the next service. So it's just like, when do you have the time? How do you have the funds?
Yeah.
And it's just, it's difficult to find that work-life balance. We have these metal balls in the coffee as well.
That's not affecting
to
the
not
flavor.
dilute. I'm just saying I don't want to pour it.
Why didn't you go like this?
I don't want to touch it.
Why not?
Ew, technical difficulties. We'll be right back. So speaking of friendships, our friend group in Vancouver is a lot more queer than the friends we grew up in Alberta. A lot of gay guys say that it's very difficult to make gay friends because I guess one of them always wants to sleep with another.
I have experienced that.
Tell us more.
I had a queer friend in culinary school. And just like, I remember when I came out, I just got no positive reception from this person. Like it was just like a really toxic kind of relationship that was like, no, you can't be. Well, how do you know? Come upstairs. I'm like, this is...
How do you know?
Yeah, I know. And I'm just like, this is not...
Oh, this was that guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm just like, this is a bad relationship. This is not like the acceptance or anything that I'm asking for in this relationship. So
So he just wanted to sleep with you to test it.
he specifically told me not to tell his husband.
He had a husband.
Yeah, husband. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I'm being myself
Yeah.
on my own time. I've never done
Yeah.
anything with you. We're just
Yeah.
friends. Like,
Yeah.
it's okay to have queer friends.
Uh-huh.
And he didn't see it like that, which was really shitty. Also was unfaithful, but
Be less shitty.
yeah. Yeah.
What is he doing nowadays?
Probably cheating on his husband again.
Oh my gosh.
Again.
Wait, but are they in an open relationship?
No,
Oh. Oh,
I don't think so.
that's shitty. I feel like the people that say like, oh, like gay guys can't be friends with gay guys because like they'll all want to sleep with each other is just like assuming that we're all just like sex hungry monkeys that we can't like control our urges.
It's just like a bit of a stereotype that like is, objectifying.
Yeah.
Like we're just like, that's the only thing that's on the male mind is sex. And like,
And when it's two guys, that's sex and
it's
sex.
and sex and sex.
But I do think when it comes to like hookup culture, it is way easier to hook up with guys than girls. It's faster. It's just easier.
Yeah.
There's just less like middle. Maybe it's because there's like, there hasn't been this like kind of what to expect. Go on your first date, movie theater, blah, 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 first base, second base. But when it comes to, queer relationships, I feel like that really hasn't been established. And for a lot of queer people, they weren't really able to experiment with that. A lot of queer people like us come out later in life and then have to figure this side completely new as adults. So we didn't get that like gradual learning period.
Yeah.
So
Also, like, if you are throwing away the traditionalist values of man and woman in a relationship, you're likely also throwing away like any abstinence or saving yourself for marriage or like, like the traditional conservative value of like just not sleeping around. Yeah. So like, I think that those two things go hand in hand. But I don't know if this also plays into like the stereotype of like, in queer culture, especially with male queer culture, it's like it's a lot of sleeping around. Mm-hmm. But then you think about like these stereotypes of like lesbian culture, and it's like U-hauling, and it's like every 2 months they like move in with a different person.
right, super committed.
Yeah, but then in these like heteronormative relationships, it's like the guy wants to sleep with the girl, and the girl wants to have like an intimate connection with the guy,
Yeah.
and that might make it more like
Yeah, I can see that. With that being said, do you find that it's easier to make friendships with straight people or queer folks?
I think I definitely make more relationships with straight people. Maybe I just don't have too many queer people in my life.
Yeah. And I mean, we've been so used to having straight friends. It just seems natural. I mean, obviously, there's also a lot more straight people than queer people.
Yeah.
So going back to the point of gay guys can't be friends with gay guys, it almost leaves no room for bi people, because if the going theory is that sexual attraction can't be friends, guys can't be friends with girls, or gay guys can't be friends with gay guys, where does it put like the bi people? Like, does that mean you can't be friends with anyone?
Bisexual people don't have friends; they only have prey.
Everyone's prey.
You're all on the
Everyone's
list. You're
open target.
We're coming for all of you.
He, him, they, them, she, her, you name it.
Whatever.
But yeah, it just doesn't make sense. Just because you have the capacity to feel attraction, like sexual attraction to someone, doesn't mean that you can't build genuine friendships.
Absolutely. So, how do you feel your relationships with straight women have changed?
I feel like definitely after coming out, it feels like I'm more comfortable leaning into my more feminine side, or I feel like I need to lean into that side a bit more when building kind of friendships with women. Maybe it's just like all in my head, but I feel like, on their perspective, it's a bit more disarming.
Yeah, you're no longer a threat.
Yeah. And like, that's something I always have to think of. Like, if there's a woman walking in front of me and it's getting late at night,
Across the street.
Cross the
Jingle your
street.
keys. Like cough a couple times. Like make
would I
sure
cough?
so she knows that you're there and she's
but how does she know that I'm queer?
oh.
That's what I'm saying.
Do a limp wrist. I don't know.
I don't know. And I feel like when it comes to building these friendships, I feel like if I didn't kind of quite lean into my feminine side a bit more, maybe it wouldn't be as of a close connection.
Yeah, I think.
But then also, then is that going against everything that we were saying? How like guys can just be friends with girls?
Guys definitely can just be friends with girls. I think being bisexual and having female straight friends is a lot more normal because women do feel less threatened, especially like if we're in a relationship already. Like,
yeah, and I think that's the main thing that changes. Like they know that we're partners. I have a boyfriend.
Yeah.
To them, we're essentially just gay guys, right?
there's no jealousy in that. It's just like this is another friend for us rather than like
That's the
thinking
thing.
about gender in addition to
I
a friend.
feel like at the end of the day, it all comes down to individual trust with your partner. And if there is any ounce of jealousy, you're not going to be able to be friends with anyone, whether they're guys, girls, they, thems, whoever. Like it's all about individual confidence and then confidence in your partner as well. And I think that's what works for us is that like, yeah, I can go with Maya, who is a woman. I can have coffee with Curtis, who is a guy. Like, and there's no issue around that. So yeah, at the end of the day, you can be friends with whoever you want as long as you're both confident in it. How did you find this coffee?
This coffee is great. I really like this coffee. It's just like sweet, delicious, like a little bit of acidity, but not like overwhelming at all.
But yeah, folks, that's pretty much it for this episode. If you guys have any other topics that you want us to discuss, comment them down below. On that, thank you guys for watching, and remember to be less shitty. Bye.
Goodbye.
Sing something for us.
And a 1 and a 2 and a 1, 2, 3. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's first gleaming through broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous night?
Cut it.